Greetings and welcome to Cyber Focus, your source for international business information. I'm here with Donnadelliah Maluleke, the Economic Consul from South Africa. Donna, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Nick.
So I'd love if you could just give our viewers kind of a basic overview of kind of the state of trade between the United States and South Africa as you see it right now.
South Africa and US have been trading for a long time. We've got a long-standing trading relationship. I mean, it goes back to way before the 1920s. And in the last few years, it's been the number one trading partner to us before China took over from both parties. But that has been rescued by the likes of Walmart still investing in South Africa. They did that deal last year. You have the Rockwell Automation and Aon and other companies that are looking into South Africa as a market. So you still find you're very critical as the US to our market because most of the technology comes from this side. A lot of other big companies, top 500 companies that we still need and are still affiliated with, they come from the US. So it's a very critical market for us.
Now, what are some of the main opportunities that you see for United States companies looking to do business in South Africa?
There are a few areas of interest, and I mean the scope is vast. The easiest way of looking into it, we say we deal with from crafts to diamonds and everything else in between. And by having said that, you have so many other industries. You've got mining, you've got technology, and I think that's the area that I'm personally interested in. It's an education, because there's one thing having to have this sophisticated system, but if you're gonna put it on the ground and it's not gonna be functional, it's another thing. So from a technology, advanced manufacturing is an area of interest to us. We also deal a lot with defense and and aerospace as well. So it's a combination of factors and sectors that we deal with. Also from a pharmaceutical point of view. So we deal with companies that are looking into South Africa as a market. And you must remember that we structure ourselves and not only as South Africa, we say we are the gateway into Africa. Not because we're the biggest economy, but we're the most organized economy in Africa. We have a constitution that works. We have infrastructure to support that, and we distribute to other regions as well, around the SADC area as well as into other African countries.
Now, are there any international companies, not just in the U.S., that you think have made especially good progress doing business in South Africa? Precisely.
I think most of the ones we try and help, you want to move away from the notion of I know so and so my stuff will go, but you help them, you guide them through the legislative point of view. One of the things that I often get asked is the issue of BEE. And we use a lot of acronyms as well. So it stands for Black Economic Empowerment, which has been extended to broad-based Black Economic Empowerment, which is one of the legislation that has been put in place to make sure that Black people, which is not offensive in South Africa, we do the whole color thing very well. So it's to make sure that they're promoted into mainstream business and economy. And there's a way to structure that deal in a sense that it's not just ownership. So you find people saying, if I own a business in South Africa, does it mean I must just give it to a person just because they're Black? But it's not like that. It's a way of structuring a deal, who you're supplying from, who supplies you, where you're sourcing your supplies, who else are you partnering with. So there's a way of dealing with the whole structuring when people are setting up in South Africa. And there are benefits to it as well. Given our history, you will realize that there are areas that government looks into in terms of trying to make sure that everybody else is encompassed in benefiting in the economy.
And so what are some of those areas that the government is especially involved in kind of assisting in growth?
It's infrastructure is one of them. We've always had to pride ourselves with infrastructure, the fact that things work in South Africa. We've got a road infrastructure that functions, and you don't have to deal with a lot of other issues like other parts of the world, which I'm not going to talk about because that's not what I'm here for. But we realize that you cannot, if you're not sustaining it, it's dying. So it's been revitalized, and right now one of the issues that is exciting is the fact that we're expanding our energy power stations, and we're building more power stations across the country. We have other companies, even coming from the US. Black and Veatch is very involved in that project. They used to send about 600 engineers just for that program only. You would have the rail system, just to offload pressure from the roads, to expand it to our ports, to make shipping much flowy and more comfortable for our companies that are exporting overseas. So it's a number of sectors that we deal with. You will realize that services then becomes crucial. We have a number of hotels. We have mostly all the brands that you would have right now, because there's a market that goes with each and every industry that gets set up.
Now, are there any specific trends that you see either in South Africa or in the global economy that you think is really benefiting South Africa in terms of international trade?
I think so. I think if you look at how the economy is behaving in around the US, I find a lot of people saying, Donna, I want a growing market. And if you look into our market, and we're saying we are open, we still have the land, we still have areas of pure development that can happen. We have a very young population, so you can still train people to give you the benefits that you're looking for. So you find a lot of that. You find a lot of people who are saying, I need to acquire a small company in South Africa. Can you assist with that? These are the benefits. We'll bring technology, we'll bring the management to hold their hand as they move into making sure that they expand that market even to other countries. So I find a lot of that. That's mostly what we deal with. So not only do we connect them to South Africa, oftentimes it needs to be infiltrated through either Mozambique or Zambia. So it's a three-way street. So that's why we say we're the gateway into Africa.
Now, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how, you mentioned the phrase gateway into Africa earlier, about how South Africa fits into the continent of Africa in terms of economic trade.
We are crucial to it, because we have a constitution that works. I think, given our history, you realize that a lot of things would have went wrong, and I would not be on this chair right now. But a lot of good decisions have been made. However, you would realize that progress still needs to be made in South Africa. We have a constitution that encompasses such a change. And we have a political stable environment. We have an infrastructure that works. We have natural beauty. There are always good reasons to go to South Africa. The weather is fantastic. The people are amazing. But if we look into what the dynamics would be around us, you would have a different story to tell, and you would need to go there to realize it. So, in more ways than one, we're very similar to America, in a sense that people come to us for all the right reasons. If you met a typical South African, you will say, so why are you going there? We learn things here. We learn about the rest of the world here. And maybe those are some of the challenges or similarities we would have between the US and South Africa, given the political and the economic positions we hold within our region.
Now, are there any specific pitfalls you think companies need to avoid when it comes to doing business in South Africa, or any kind of cultural differences that you've seen maybe trip companies up?
I think every area's got a way of doing things. Every household drive their priorities different, and I think people need to be aware of that. There is a legislative guidance that one needs to follow. as I mentioned, the BEE application, the registration as well. And I think people must just go to the right offices for the right guidance, and not necessarily, there's this whole, I think it's an African notion that you would assume because you know so and so things would just automatically happen. And I think we're doing our best to move away from such conceptions, and people must just be aware of the cultural differences. It's not so different between the US and South Africa. It's not as distinctive as it would be if you go into China, even how you hold your business card and things like that. But people are warmer, and people, I think they're always open to new and different ideas. You should just be aware of those factors. But on a normal day, because we speak the same language, it's an English-speaking country, so the flow of business should be somewhat similar.
I was wondering if you have any predictions or projections for the future of the United States-South African relations, or any kind of changes you see on the horizon?
I think it's a long-standing relation, as I have mentioned, and it's key to us. As much as we diversify and we have other agreements with other countries, this one remains one of our key priorities. So I see it on the rise. We often say we are a nation on the rise, and a lion on the move. And that's where we see it. I mean, even with the previous global crisis, you would have expected things to be so worse for us, and we were hit hard by it, but we're recovering, and that's the projection that I would give. We also see a lot of exports coming from South Africa from small companies that are looking into the US as a fruitful market, and vice versa. Those are the kind of services we're providing for American companies who are looking to go to South Africa, and it's a very busy area. When we host business seminars, you'll be surprised. Yesterday we had one. I was expecting 50 people. I had to find 40 other chairs because people just are looking into diversifying, and they're looking into emerging markets, and we are just that market.
Donna, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being hosted by the university, and I appreciate it.
Thanks. That's all for this edition of Cyber Focus. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, please contact us at ciber@indiana.edu.